Coins. Snacks. You ask, what do stunning coins and delicious snacks have in common?
Hi, I'm Jack McNamara, and I love stunning and rare coins. Oh, and I also love delicious and scrumptious food, too. Join me as I combine the best of numismatics and tasty treats into one show. Coin Snacks with Jack. Put down that tired bologna sandwich and spice up your lunch as I chat with some of the biggest names in numismatics and eat delicious snacks. From coin news and US Mint releases to rare coins and numismatic oddities. From my all-time favorite coins to ancients and commemoratives, get your numismatic midweek pick-me-up with Coin Snacks with Jack. Plus, we'll eat snacks, lots of them.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Coin Snacks with Jack. I'm your host, Jack McNamara, and when I close my eyes, all I can see is hamburgers and cookies. Anyway, catch me right here live on YouTube and Facebook, streaming a new episode every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Now, this week, I have a little update on the 2021 Morgan and Peace dollars. Initially, we thought that the Morgan and Peace dollars that are coming out would be just a one-off production. It could potentially be brought back for special anniversary dates, but Mint Director David Ryder alluded to the possibility of these coins becoming a yearly issue earlier this month, saying it would be determined based on demand for the 2021 coins. So, now, I know these coins have yet to be released, but I can say with almost certainty that the demand for these is going to be just out of control. So if that's really the case, then I'm excited to see what future issues of these coins could bring in years to come. So, we'll see. As always, we will keep you updated with more info as time passes. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who gets my show on the air every week. Sebastian, Sofer, Colleen, Elliot, Alex, Andrew, JC, thank you guys. Thank you all for helping get this machine moving here. This week, we have another lunch special for you all. This is a good one here. We're going to be giving 5% off of select classic gold commemorative coins. These are truly some of the most remarkable and unique coins ever produced in our history. And here we're going to talk a little bit about these coins today. We even have a couple of sets available of these coins. This is a big deal. This special, 5% off on these select coins, is going until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, so do not hesitate to check out our selection. And remember, no special codes are necessary. Just visit our website, rarecollectiblestv.com, to take advantage of those specials. This week, we have a little something extra for you besides that special. Here's another special. To celebrate our 5,000 followers on Instagram and 3,000 followers on YouTube, we're going to be giving away these books of our Private Advisory Coin Team 2020 Numismatic Hall of Fame. And it showcases the photography of some of the rarest coins we've been able to place with our customers over the last year. So it's a really beautiful book, showing you, gives you a great idea of some of the phenomenal coins we've been able to place with our clients in 2020. So all you need to do to receive one of these books is simply email coinguys at rarecollectiblestv.com with your name and address, and that's a $10 value for free. So don't miss out on that. Limit one per customer. Now, here is the moment we've been waiting for. It is time to introduce our special guest. He has over 40 years of numismatic experience in the coin world. He's bought, sold, appraised all types of coins and currency from the United States and around the world. He is a prolific writer. He's been published in PCGS's Rare Coin Market Report, the Gray Sheet, the Numismatist. He's a renowned expert in the field of U.S. classic commemorative coins, and he even acted as the editor during the 80s and 90s for the Commemorative Trail, which is the journal for the Society of United States Commemorative Coins. Today we have Mike Garofalo. How you doing, Mike? Where's our audio? Oh, let's see. Are you unmuted? You're still. I think we had you muted there. You good?
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you. Sorry about that. Thanks for coming on, Mike.
Not a problem.
Appreciate
Happy to be here, Jack.
I'm excited to have you. I'm really looking forward because, Commems in particular are a series that I've always thought were such a, just so cool because they're just like an under the radar series. I mean, they were a huge, the most popularly collected coin probably in the 40s and 50s, and then they've kind of, I don't hear that much about them, and they're just such a great coin. Anyway, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. But first, we have to talk about the most important thing here, Mike, as you know, is the snacks.
Of course.
So normally I would introduce the lovely Colleen with our snack for the day. But, is this Colleen? Welcome.
Surprise. It's Sofer with the snack today. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Sofer.
This is actually a snack that Mike recommended himself, as he's from Oklahoma. This is the pecan pie cookie.
Yeah.
And as you can see, they do really just look like little pecan pies. Pecan pie is just such a classic American dessert. It started in the 1880s. It showed up in cookbooks in Texas, and then by the 1920s, it was booming. People everywhere loved it. Now it's a Thanksgiving staple. Americans around the country love it, and it makes sense because pecans are just native to North America, just a classic, beautiful American dessert. And now they're in cookie form. So
Awesome.
please enjoy, Jack. Please enjoy, Mike.
Thank you, Sofer. Or
Thank you,
or
Sofer.
whoever this secret person is, I'm not sure who. Since I've never seen Sofer's face, we only hear his voice normally. I don't know who that secret person was with these coins, but they look awesome. I said coins, cookies. Very exciting. We usually always have a tie-in. I know, Mike, you said, I guess there's Red Mill pecan cookies at every gas station and convenience store in Oklahoma.
Yeah, pretty much. They're really well known. The cookie itself is really, it's an Oklahoma staple. It's something that we've learned. We've only been here 15 years, so we're just barely Okies. But it really is a staple. It's everywhere. And there's a little town south of Tulsa called Okmulgee, and they have their pecan festival in June every year. And it's big doings, as they say here in Oklahoma. For my relatives back in New England, I just say I had one of the cookies, and they're wicked awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to let them know, how good they are. And in true Oklahoma fashion, I'll thank you for them. I'll just say I appreciate you.
Well, I'm originally from Jersey, and now I'm in California, so I'll try and say I appreciate you back. I'm not sure if I got the pronunciation right. I guess it's an apostrophe P on the appreciate.
Yep.
Okay.
No A, and you is CHA. Appreciate you.
Got it. Well, these also, as Sofer pointed out, kind of come from around the time period of a lot of the coins we're going to discuss today. These started in the, 1880s. The coins we're talking about started, 1892. But
Right.
I guess up until the 20s, by the teens and 20s, the Commem series was booming. So.
Oh, yeah.
So
Let's mention that.
So all right. Well, I'm going to jump in the deep end here a little bit. You're a leading expert in commemorative coins. I mean, I know you're an expert in U.S. coins and all kinds of coins, but in particular, your kind of passion is in commemorative coins. I mentioned we do have a special on a couple of gold coins and gold commemorative sets on the website today. So I kind of wanted to, we'll get a little more into the genesis of things here, but I want to go right into the gold commems here first. Most collectors of the gold commems work on building an 11 coin set. What makes this such a great series to collect?
Well, Jack, there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost is the mintages on a lot of these early gold commemoratives are very, very low. One of my favorite coins is the 1922 Grant, and it's in that bottom row of what you're showing, and it's the coin right in the middle. It was designed in 1922 by Laura Garden Fraser, who was the wife of James Earl Fraser. And she, interestingly, she designed a number of commemoratives, both gold and silver, but she designed them, and in order for her designs to be accepted, even though her husband was well known and served on a lot of one of the major committees for coin design approval, she used to design them under her own maiden name, and she just used initials, so people wouldn't identify her with James Earl Fraser. You know, women at that time, their designs were not, they were thought to be more pretty than they were functional. And but she really designed an awful lot of the coins. The thing I like about the 1922 Grant coins is this is the first time that they added to a gold coin a star to make a second version. So now collectors, if they wanted a complete set, would have to buy not only the coin with the star, but also the coin without the star.
Right.
And what I like about the Grant is that the mintages are awfully low. It's a little over 5,000 coins of each. Right. And when you think about it today, the modern gold commemoratives that are issued, there's usually 40, 50, 75,000, 100,000 coins
Right.
that are struck. Here you've got a coin from 1922, so it's 99 years old,
Right.
and they only made 5,000 of them to begin with. How many of those coins are still around? How many of those are in pristine condition? The numbers are very, very small, and
Right.
the price is not great in comparison to, I think, the relative rarity of the coins. It's a great design. It's got General Ulysses S. Grant on the obverse of the coin. It's got his boyhood home where he was born on the reverse of it. It's a great coin. It's done by a wonderful designer. It's got a low mintage. You know, what more do you want? And the prices are relatively low today. They haven't been. It's not a series that has been taken up and promoted by people, and the prices really haven't increased significantly in a number of years. So to me, it's a great value for today, and especially for tomorrow and the future. It won't be long before people really do realize and recognize the value of these coins and how scarce they truly are.
Right, and you can get them in you know, high grades. You know, like you said, I mean, the mintages were so tiny. I mean, when you look at not just the Grant, but the whole series, you know, if you look at that 11 coin series, you know, I'm you know, we'll talk later about the $50 coins, but all those $1 and $2.50 gold coins, you know, the highest mintage in the series is the sesquicentennial, $2.50 sesquicentennial, and the mintage is less than 50,000 coins. You know, so they're all low mintages, and that's actually the sesquicentennial is the only one with a mintage above 20,000 coins.
Right.
So you know, most of them are in the teens, and you know, some of them in you know 5,000, 6,000 coins. It's like you said, remarkable. These coins are, you know, most of them are now over 100 years old, but you know, the most recent one is 1926, the sesquicentennial. You know, so you got coins that are about a century old.
Right.
And like you said, how many of these, I mean, they didn't have third-party grading service holders protecting these coins. You know, the coins, many of them were mishandled, you know, turned into jewelry, all kinds of things. You know, I'm sure a lot of these things got melted in the 1930s and probably again in the 1980s. You know, so the survivorship of them, when you're starting with those minuscule numbers, and then when you look at the price compared to, you know, more recent coins, you know, you can get a lot of these coins with these tiny mintages for less than, say, like a 95W Silver Eagle, you know, which is a great coin. Exactly. I'm not saying anything bad about the coin. I love that coin too, but I'm just showing because the Silver Eagle, so many people are aware of it and are collecting it, and this is a series that is still kind of at the current, for the last couple, decade or two, kind of gone under the radar, and people just don't realize how rare these things are and how comparatively affordable they are. So
right. It really is supply and demand, and there's a greater supply today than there is a demand. You mentioned something too about the coins. A lot of them were placed in jewelry. Mm-hmm. I had just recently bought from the 1903 Louisiana Purchase Exposition. They also made 2 $1 gold coins. One of them had Thomas Jefferson on it because Jefferson was the person who struck the deal with Napoleon Bonaparte to buy the Louisiana Purchase lands. But the other coin had the recently martyred William McKinley on it. Mm-hmm. And he had no connection to the Louisiana Purchase, but because he had been assassinated 2 years earlier, the country was still, in mourning from that. So they thought it would be nice to place him on one of the coins. But one of the coins that I bought, it had the Jefferson coin, and it was mounted in a sterling silver spoon. And when I looked back at some of the memorabilia that's around, and there was a brochure that was available to fairgoers at the Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, and they could buy those coins as cufflinks, as tie tacks, in pendants and brooches, in spoons. So, you take that original mintage, those coins had a mintage of about 17,500 on each. How many of those coins were made into jewelry or made into other items? Because remember, at the time, even though these were commemorative coins, they weren't an investment. They were still coin of the realm. You could take them to the store and spend them. Right. They didn't get the attention that a coin today does. The modern commemorative coins today, people know that, they come specially prepared and they receive special handling at the mint. The coins from the early 1900s, this classic commemorative series, got no such special handling for the most part. So these were really just, coins not necessarily for circulation, but a lot of them did wind up in circulation. Remember, too, we went through the Depression in 1929 into the 1930s. We went through 2 world wars and other wars since then. A lot of times these coins, which were family mementos, when great-grandfather went to the Louisiana Purchase Expo, suddenly became what a family lived on during hard times. So the surviving numbers are even much lower, in my opinion, than the original mintage numbers, which were low to begin with.
Right. Now that's interesting because, I've seen coins, and I know a lot of gold dollars and 2.5 because of the size. They're often selected for jewelry and things. But I find that fascinating that you're saying that even right from the day they were issued, they were offered at the fair officially already being turned into jewelry and spoons and things. I was thinking, people doing it, privately later. I like this coin that I got. Take it to my jeweler and make it into a ring or a brooch. I didn't realize that they were selling them right out of the gate already kind of reducing the population of kind of collectible coins. Now, of course, people collect them in the officially produced jewelry, I'm sure, and if you find that stuff, I'm sure there's a value, but it's not it's not going to be a mint state gem coin anymore.
No, and that's the thing too, that the ones that survived, you look at it and you say, I'm shocked and amazed at how many actually survive in high grade. And it's not a huge number, but the fact that any of them survived 100 years, and particularly gold, it's a very small coin. It's gold, so it's a soft metal. How it manages to survive without scratches, nicks, or even worse, somebody having polished it over the last 100 years is really amazing. And that's the allure of these coins. They really are little miniature works of art done by these great artists. And to survive in high grade, it's an amazing thing to me. It never ceases to amaze me. And I've been looking at them for more than 50 years and actively buying them for more than 40 years. And it's still fun to find a really nice high grade early gold commemor or a nice silver commemor. It's amazing how they survive.
Now, let me take it back a bit. We like I said, I kind of jumped in the deep end with going right to the gold right off the bat, but let's take it back. And, I just want to kind of ask, how did you end up, you said you've been buying these for 50 years or so. How did you end up specializing in this series?
Well, I was starting off as a dealer in the 1970s. And I started off like most people do when you get involved with a series. I had a collector come up to me and he handed me a Library of Coins album. It was an album that was popular in the 30s and 40s. I'm not that old, but it was, this was in the late 1960s, early 1970s, probably around 71 or so. And at a coin show, a collector came up to me with a full album. And he said, here, I'd like you to make me an offer on this. And I looked at it, and I had a couple of commemoratives. I had, a Lexington, the ones that you would expect, the Lexington Concord, a couple of Colombian half dollars, an Oregon Trail. But this book had everything in it. It was all 50 types. Now, these were just the silver coins. But he also happened to have with him, as I was trying to figure out what's a fair price to pay him so that I can make a little money on it, but he would be happy with my offer. He also said to me, he said, hey, let me sweeten the pot a little bit. And he had a bag with him, and he opened up the bag, and inside of there were a lot of original holders for the silver coins. And in the 70s, this gentleman was probably about 80 years old. So he'd been buying them for a long time, and he bought a lot of them, most of them from the original organizations that sold them. And it was great getting all of that history dumped in my lap. And I was wondering, gee, is this stuff really worth anything? And as I've learned over the years, it's worth plenty. And in fact, some of the holders are particularly on the silver coins, are worth even more than some of the coins are. Or I should say that they're scarcer than a lot of the coins are. Like there, for example, what we're showing is an Oregon Trail, what's called the tab holder. And the reason it's called the tab holder is, you see, it's got a little hole in the center there. Well, the coin slides under the two tabs, one at the top and one at the bottom. And what it does is it really produces a very unique toning pattern.
Right.
The holder is made of cardboard. It has sulfur in the cardboard. There's ink that's printed on the bottom, as you can see, and it imparts a toning pattern that is unique to the coins. And the coins get what's called tab toning.
Right.
And what that says to me and anybody who specializes in this is, these coins have never been played with. They are totally original.
Right.
This is how they survived many, many years in those packages. There is a Lynchburg set of all 5 coins with the original holder, with the original mailing envelope. A dealer today sees a package like that available from a collector or from another dealer, and you're salivating to get it. You can't wait to make an offer on those coins and buy them, because you know that what you're getting are coins that are truly original and haven't been played with in any way.
Right, haven't been mishandled or cleaned or anything.
One of the nice things about them.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say they haven't. When you see that, they haven't been cleaned or mishandled or anything. They're totally original. Right. They've been put away and stay that way.
And how many people really went through the trouble of saving the packaging that the coins came in, or the original mailing envelopes? It's really special when you find those, and the surviving numbers of those are even, it's a tiny fraction of what the surviving numbers of the actual coins even
right,
are.
Because nobody's going to throw away the coins, but probably 99% of people threw away the packaging at some point.
Exactly.
So the
and today
packaging
it's
is
something
much
that,
rarer.
as people collect commemorative coins, that's one thing that they tend to do is, there's a lot of ways to collect them. We talked about with the gold coins, there are the 11 coins that are readily affordable, even in high grade, for most, if not all, collectors. There are two coins that are fairly expensive, though. They're the $50 slugs, as they call them. And those are the two on the end there, and you can see, that those coins are incredibly rare. There's only several hundred of each that were struck. Now this is the octagonal $50 Panama Pacific coin, and it is really an incredibly rare and beautiful coin. It's got the goddess of Minerva on the front of the coin and the owl of wisdom on the reverse of it. And Robert Aiken, who was the designer of this coin, he made two $50 coins. One's round, and it has the exact same design as this. But this one, if you could look at it closely, you would notice that around each of the points of the octagon, there's a dolphin swimming. And just really beautiful designs. He was inspired, like most coin designers, from about 1900 to about 1925 by Teddy Roosevelt, who said our coins are hideous atrociousness.
Right.
That's the only way.
That famous letter, yeah.
And he wanted us to go back to what the Greeks and Romans had done, this really classical style, make really beautiful coins. The Greeks were the first ones with their silver and gold coins to actually strike commemorative coins. They struck coins commemorating battles that were won, or new emperors or old emperors, or festivals and celebrations. And that's really, when you look at the history of our commemorative coin series, that's what it celebrates. It celebrates battles that were won. It celebrates many different world expositions that were held in the United States. It celebrates our heroes and other festivals and events and things. And it's a great series to collect. One other thing about it is collecting coins is great. It's a wonderful hobby. It's been my life and my business. Mm-hmm. And the thing I love about commemoratives is that they're all different.
Right.
You get 50 different coins in the silver. One's a quarter, one's $1. The rest are $half, but all of the designs are different from each other. Some people are the bug really bites them, and they don't stop at a 50-piece set, because some of these coins were made in multiple years, right, and different varieties, by adding stars or doing something different to the
different
coin.
mint marks in some cases.
Exactly. Like a privy mark today, what they'll do is they'll collect all of the silver coins, and that's 144 pieces. Then if you include the gold coins, you have the basic 11 coin set, which is beautiful and really, really scarce because of the low mintages. But then you add the two $50 Panama Pacific coins on top of it. If your pocketbook allows it, you have the time and the history really gets you to you. You'll collect all 157 coins. One of my collectors, is a very good customer and friend, and he went not only to buy the best that he could afford of all 157 gold and silver coins, he also collects the original memorabilia, like we had just shown, that goes with it, and tries to get memorabilia for a lot of the coins as well too. So the original holders, and there's remember too, a lot of these were for world fairs, like the Columbian Exposition, right, and the Panama Pacific Exposition. So there's a lot of different memorabilia that you can collect as well that go along with it. So it's a great hobby for a lifetime, and these really, in my opinion, will be a great investment today, because the prices are. They're not being over promoted in the market like some things are. And when you can buy something that is relatively inexpensive compared to other things in the market, it makes sense. As John D. Rockefeller used to say, buy straw hats in December. Buy something that's a little out of favor when people aren't charging the highest prices for it. It makes perfect sense.
Right. Yeah, because these series, you know, the gold in particular, you know, in the early days of coin grading, people didn't know, you know, how many there were going to be in gem grades, and as you know, the prices for some of these coins was probably 5 or 10 times higher for a short period in the late 80s. And once the prices came out, people started, you know, dealers are going in the back of their safe, you know, because this was coin grading was brand new, third party coin grading was brand new. And then once everybody realized how, you know, much interest there was at the time, the prices got to the moon, and now they've never got back there. So, like, when you look at those prices, they seem just ridiculously low today, like ridiculously low.
Yeah, the current prices really are, and that's exactly what happened. Remember, you know, PCGS and NGC only came around 85, 86, 87 in that period, but these coins started moving up in the early 1980s, and by 1988, 89, the market for commemoratives was especially strong at that point in time. And, you know, I remember going to coin shows and looking at dealers' inventories and not being able to buy the coins that I loved and I had customers for, simply because the prices were too high. And, you know, the wise people were the ones who sold during those periods and waited for the prices to come down a little bit in order to start buying them and start putting their collections together. And that's really what a lot of people, you know, did. The coins today, many more of them are certified. But remember, if you're only starting with a mintage of 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 coins, how many gems are still existent today on a 100 coin?
Right. And I would say also part of that phenomenon was because, you know, there were so few graded, and, you know, grading had only been around a year or two. At this point, I would argue that virtually all of the high grade ones are graded, because people understand the importance and the value of coins when you have a superb gem coin, or, you know, these really, you know, extraordinary coins. So I don't, like you said, with a mintage of 5,000, there's no big hordes going to come out of these coins. They just don't exist.
The last big horde of any commemoratives that really came out was in around 1987. The Bank of Hawaii, which had distributed the Hawaiian commemorative $50, they had 137 coins that they found in a bag in one of their vaults. Okay. And they put them up for auction. And you think, to coin dealers and the coin collecting public, 137 of one thing coming out is not a huge number, but it's a lot all to come out at once. And they auctioned them all off at the same time. And the prices were phenomenally good. Everybody wanted a piece of that. So one of the last great hoards that the industry and the hobby knows about was, the coins were, they seemingly evaporated into the market without much problem. And it never really affected the price of that coin very much. There just aren't a lot of big hoards of commemorative coins, whether you're talking the silver or the gold, really available today. There were back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, but those hoards are long gone at this point in time. And so that's kind of one of the nice things about the whole series is you get great designers, you get different designs, you can collect it a variety of ways. You have coins with really low mintages to begin with. Right. As most people would say, what's not to like about the series? And the prices are a little out of favor. They haven't appreciated the way a lot of things in the market have. So there's a lot of positives, and I can't think of very many, if any, negatives about the series at all. Right.
Now let's take it back a little bit. Like, can you give our viewers kind of a brief history of the series?
Sure. Well, again, as I had said, it started with the Greeks and the Romans, and they were the ones who came up with the idea of commemorative coins. And what the purpose of most commemorative coins actually was to fund the event. And what would happen is they would get their local congressman to sponsor a bill, and hopefully it would work its way through both houses of Congress and then get approved by the president. And what they wanted was for celebrations of different events. So, we had mentioned the Columbian Exposition, the first one. It was in 1892. The exposition didn't open up until 1893. That's the coin that you're showing. It was designed by Charles Barber, who did the obverse, and George Morgan did the reverse. And the funny thing about the reverse, when you look at it, is you've got Columbus's flagship, the Santa Maria, and you have two globes below it. And the coin has been called the ship on wheels, if you will, because that's when you look at it, that's kind of how it looked. But the idea about it was Congress authorized 5 million of these silver coins to be struck over that 2-year period, and less than just about 2.5 million of the coins were struck. 950,000 in 1892, and 1.5 million, a little more than that, in 1893. Remember, they would strike the coins, and then what wasn't sold in that year was returned to the mint to be melted.
Right.
So, but at least the mint had kept good records of that. We know how many of those coins came out of the mint and were actually sold by the different organizations. It's a great coin, but a lot of people don't even realize that another coin came out of the Columbian Exposition as well, and that was before we leave the Columbus coin, the high-tech company of the day was the Remington Typewriter Company. Okay. And as an advertising marketing gimmick or fact, they paid the princely sum of $10,000 for the very first coin that was struck. So,
wow.
Collectors today talk about, first strikes, and are they worth more than, coins that were struck later? Well, it has great roots in our history. A lot of people don't know that, but, back in 1892, they paid $10,000, which you'd think in 1892, the average worker was probably making between $1,000 and $2,000 a year. So that's a decade's worth of gross earnings for him. They paid that for one coin.
Wow.
But there was another coin that came out of the Columbian Exposition as well. And the Board of Lady Managers was the women's division, if you will, of the Columbian Exposition. And they lobbied successfully to get a coin, but they didn't get $50 like the gentleman did. They wound up getting a quarter, and it was the Isabella quarter. And it's the only quarter in the 50-piece classic commemorative set. In fact, it's the only quarter even in the whole 144-piece set. And it has a portrait of Queen Isabella on the obverse, and it has a woman with a yarn, spindle, and distaff on the reverse. And they didn't sell quite as many of those. They only sold a little over 24,000 of them. But something you have to remember is that the fairgoers, if you had limited amount of money for souvenirs to buy, you could buy a Columbian Expo $50 for $1, or you could buy an Isabella quarter for $1.
Oh,
so
really?
It was a greater value to the fairgoers to buy the Columbian $50 than it was the Isabella quarter. But that just makes the Isabella quarter a rarer coin, because
right.
Instead of being 2.5 million between two dates, you have a little over 24,000 that were struck for just one date.
Right.
So
it's
a
like
coin on its own,
rarer.
and it's the only quarter.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I knew that the halves generally sold for double, or most of the coins sold for double face value. I didn't realize that the quarter sold for $1. I would have assumed it sold for 50 cents.
Right. No, it sold for $1. Remember the funds, the difference between the organizing committees, like the Board of Lady Managers, who managed to get the quarter through Congress. They were able to keep 75 cents of every quarter that they sold for $1.
Okay.
And so that was the beauty of it for them, that these coins had a purpose, even though they were mementos of the fairs or of the events that were being commemorated. They were there to raise funds so that these local organizations could put on a nice celebration, and the government would help defray the cost of it by selling them the coins at face value. So it was really it was an interesting thing. There's no known, while there are some original holders for the Columbian Expo $50. They're little leather pouches that say World's Columbian Exposition on them. There's no known holders for the Isabella quarters. And I say it that way, no known. Right. There are things that we kind of take for granted because we haven't seen one yet. That doesn't mean that one won't surface at some point into the future. But what we do know is that there were only 24,000 of them struck. How many of them are still in high grade? It's and when you look at the relative rarity of that Isabella quarter and the Columbian Expo $50, finding coins in high grade and paying what the current prices are, they seem like really great values to me.
Right, and it's interesting. A few things there kind of just pop in my head. When you look at these coins, first off, for whatever reason, and maybe it was that leather pouch. Do they know what the quarter came in? Was it also a leather pouch, or is there any record in any publications? Or
no, I mean I've got commemorative coin books that go back to the 1930s. The first one was published around 1936, and they list all of the coins. And later books talk a little bit about the memorabilia that came with it. And every book is kind of said the same thing. There's just no known memorabilia associated with the Isabella quarter. So in a way, that's great. I mean, if somebody finds something, they've got really a truly rare item. If it hasn't surfaced in over 100 years, it's one of very few that survived.
Right. I mean, I'm wondering if it would have been a similar. You said the halves came in a leather pouch. I would wonder if the quarters did too, because my thought is, of all the different commems that come later in the series, the when you see a high grade Columbian Expo half or a high grade Isabella quarter, they always seem to have that same beautiful bluish purplish tone. Right. They get a very specific kind of a color to them, and I wonder if it could relate to the silver that they used to make the coins, but I wonder if it relates to the packaging, the way these things were stored in the early days. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I one time bought an original proof set that was still in an envelope from the mint from 1895. So it's contemporary to these coins, and the coins were wrapped in a tissue-like paper. And I tend to think that that's probably what many people did to save the coin and to save it from any damage or excess handling to it. And, depending on the paper, if there's sulfur somewhere in the paper, it will tone the coins. Silver coins particularly, not so much with gold, but silver coins, are chemically active metals. And because of that, they interact with their environment. So if something was wrapped in paper or kept near cardboard or in cardboard, chances are it will definitely tone. And that's, one thing too is like over the last probably 30 years, there's been a great appreciation for toned coins more so than ever. And that's true, I think, with silver dollars in particular, but also with the commemorative series. And it really just shows the originality of the coins. And there was always a tendency back in the 60s when I was a kid just starting off in the hobby, back in the early 60s, everybody wanted things nice and bright. So a lot of coins were cleaned. Some of them were cleaned, and it damaged the coins today. So you can't get them graded. And that's one of the nice things about third-party grading today is that it weeds out the coins that have been cleaned in any way that they shouldn't have been. That's the beauty of third-party, toning. It's the grade is assured, but also that the specimen that you're getting has not been cleaned, and it's something that is in a nice and collectible original state.
Right. So, when we look at these coins, we talk about Columbian Exposition was the first one, and I'm guessing that was sort of like an experiment. They didn't know this was going to continue as this series at the time. And they probably was like, hey, let's raise funds for this, this big World's Fair type exhibition. And then when it worked, I guess other groups kind of caught on to that. And then it continued until the 50s, I guess. So how did that kind of evolve, and then why did it kind of end for, like, this classic series ends, then we have today Commems again, but that didn't start until the early 80s. How did it evolve from Columbia to a point where the government said, we're not going to do this anymore?
Well, what happened was, like with a lot of things, some people got greedy. Some of the, it's great to strike a commemorative coin for a worthwhile event. The next coin that in order of age that came about was the Lafayette dollar, the only silver dollar in the entire classic series. They made gold dollars, of course, but this is the only silver dollar that they made. And that was for a worthy event too. It was the school children of the United States donated their pennies and nickels to it in 1899 in order to raise enough money to build an equestrian statue in Paris at the 1900 Paris Exposition. And they wanted to honor the Marquis de Lafayette, who was George Washington's good friend and
he's almost like a son to Washington.
Essentially, he was.
Yeah.
And he came here from France, spending his own money to come here to help us fight the British. And he was the one who was very instrumental in getting the French Navy to come here to blockade ports where British ships were. And that really helped turn the tide of the war. Because remember, at the time, we were a big group of farmers and tradesmen, and we weren't, military folks in 1770s. And here we were fighting, the greatest land military force, in the world at that time. So we owed a real debt of gratitude to Lafayette. And the statue that actually was erected, excuse me, looked a great deal like the statue that was proposed on the reverse.
Uh-huh.
And those were the coins that sold about, I think that we struck about 36,000 of those coins, and those were $2 each. And a lot of Americans bought those coins because a portion of those proceeds were going to fund the rest of the statue costs.
Uh-huh. And that's a coin too. I mean, when you think of, in the commemorative series, it's maybe about, an average kind of a mintage. But when you think of other silver dollars, Morgan dollars, the lowest mintage is 100,000, and 93S, those coins go for, in mint state, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And from what I've seen, Lafayette's, for whatever reason, they seem more prone to cleaning than some of the other coins. I see for whatever reason, a lot of people, I guess maybe just whatever trace elements were in that silver, maybe they toned dark, and people who were not, the most sophisticated collectors, or maybe non-collectors, just found this memento, seemed to polish them up. But for whatever reason, in my travels, I just seem to run across more of those that look kind of not original.
And the point you make was good too. You're asking about what happened to the commemorative series.
Mm-hmm.
They started coming out, in 1892 and 93, and we did a few in the early 1900s, and it started to gain a little more popularity in the 20s as the hobby gained more popularity. But then in the 1930s, the floodgates opened, and
Right.
everyone and their brother was clamoring to have a commemorative coin issued for whatever event they wanted. And, some events are worthy of commemorating. These world fairs and expositions, looking at some of the coins in the 1930s, the Rhode Island Tercentenary, the 300th anniversary of the landing there. That's a good, worthy event. But then you also have a set of 3 coins, a PDS set, issued in 1936 of coins from Cincinnati. And the obverse of the coins had Stephen Foster on them. And the reverse had, a allegorical figure holding a lyre. And it said that, Cincinnati is America's music center. Well, Stephen Foster, we don't even know if he visited Cincinnati. There's no real connection from him to the city. I was totally unaware that Cincinnati was the great center of American music.
I don't think of that.
So what happened is, some people got a little greedy, and any reason that they could come up with that would sound plausible, they took it to their Congress people and urged them and lobbied them to create a bill and get it, to move through the House or the Senate, and then, into the other chamber, and then have the president sign it. And in the 1930s, FDR, who was president from 1932 to 1945, well, he signed an awful lot of bills. He was a coin and stamp collector, and he liked the coins, and he saw really nothing wrong with them. But you have coins like that Cincinnati, coin that really just doesn't make sense. It's not in the same caliber of another coin that was issued in that same year. Was the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. It was, in the battle was in 1863. The coin was issued in 1930, designed in 36. But even then, the coin has a 1936 date on it, but it also has, a later date for the 75th anniversary, which didn't happen until 1938. I think what was happening towards the later 1930s is people were realizing that there was some pushback by collectors of the time that there are too many commemorative coins now, and some of the events really don't make sense. And remember, to collect them all at the time, it's 144 pieces between 1892 and 1954 when the last ones were issued. So it was a lot of money, and some coins were for events that were great, but other coins were for events that were, to be honest, not so great, like the Cincinnati one. And then some of them were, they took a great event and they adopted it to their own means. For example, the centennial of the Monroe Doctrine in 1923. Okay, I can understand that. The Monroe Doctrine is how we treat our neighbors here in the Western Hemisphere. It's been a very important doctrine that the U.S. has followed for a long time. But the coin that was issued was officially titled the Monroe Doctrine Centennial, an American Historical and Motion Picture Exposition. And it was kidnapped, if you will, by some enterprising people in Hollywood who were trying to make talking pictures and the motion picture industry a more mainstream type of entertainment. Now, Monroe never saw a movie, probably never visited Los Angeles. His doctrine wasn't written in L.A. It had nothing to do with the motion picture industry. But yet here was a good coin with a worthy, event that was captured by somebody. And that happened back in 1923. So, again, the commemoratives have had a very interesting past. And that's the one really fun thing about them, is that you learn so much history by wanting to know more about the coins and wanting to buy more and complete a collection. And it really is, I think the word I'm looking for is, it captures you. It's entertaining. It makes you understand the history of the country and what was happening at the time that the coins were struck, and also the time that the coins, the events that were happening that the coins commemorate. You understand what was going on then as well. So it's, like I said, that's the thing I love about the series, is that even after 50 years of appreciating them and 40 years of buying them, I still learned something new about them, not quite every day, but every year I learn more things that I never knew before about the
because
series
it's not
and about
just it's
things I've
because
find
it's
them.
it's not like collecting. Most people who coin collectors collect there's so many ways to collect type coins in different ways, but very popular way to collect is you collect the series. Commems is a series, but the only thing that changes is the date. In this series,
Right.
you're getting a completely different design on every coin, and like you said, each of those designs has a different story. It's not like you collect Lincoln cents, say. Like I started as a kid collecting Lincoln pennies. Once you know the story of Lincoln and you know the story of Victor David Brenner and Roosevelt, and you know the story, and then you start with 1909 and you get to 2021, and if you got every date, it's still the same story. Here you got 50 coins or 144 or 157 depending on how you do it, but every coin has a unique story to it, especially if you're just doing by type. The 50 coins, 50 stories there of like you said, some more important than others. Some of the less important ones are probably more fascinating than the more important ones, because you go, how did P.T. Barnum end up on a U.S. coin?
The guy who's known for there's a sucker born every minute, yet he was the most famous citizen of Bridgeport, Connecticut. So, but you're right. He's a con man, and actually some people think he was appropriate simply because there were some other con men who promoted coins that really shouldn't have been, gone into the realm of actually being struck. One other coin I'd like to just mention, because the history is really amazing, and that's the Oregon Trail Commemorative.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of the
design.
brainchild of a pioneer named Ezra Meeker. And Ezra was born in 1830, and in 1852, at the age of 22, he took his wife, his newborn baby, and an ox team and traveled 2,100 miles from Iowa to the Oregon Territory. That was free land up there that people could settle.
Uh-huh.
And it took them 4 or 5 months to make the trip. Well, around 1905, Meeker was 75 years old, and he realized that the old Oregon Trail was being forgotten. And they estimate that more than 50,000 pioneers traveled the old Oregon Trail. And, the survival rate of people who actually made it from wherever they started, St. Louis or Iowa or wherever, was probably about 50%. So half of those people never made the trip, whether it was, running into people who were hostile to them, or just famine, or natural causes out on the trail. Half of them didn't make it. And so what Meeker did in 1905, he's 75 years old, he realized he only had a limited amount of time left, was he started traveling across the country to raise funds for the Oregon Trail, to make sure that they would put markers all along the trail to show people where they went and how difficult it was.
Uh-huh.
Well, he actually covered the trail 4 more times, twice by ox cart, as he had done the first time in 1852, once by airplane in the 20s, which was a really novel thing to do then, and once by motor car when he was 93 years old. In 1926, he was successful in getting enough people in Congress to support a coin that would be struck. And in fact, the Oregon Trail coin that you just showed, it's been considered by a lot of people to be the one of the most beautiful, if not the most American of all designs. You've got a Native American on the front, obverse of the coin, who looks like he has his hand up and he's saying, "Hold on, we have enough people who've come out west." And then you've got on the reverse, you've got the ox team heading out into the west. So it's a beautiful coin design. And they made those coins in 26 and 28, 33, 34, 36, 37, 38, and 39. And you think, my God, that's going to be, how many millions of coins did they make? Well, just in 1939 alone, they did a PDS set, but they only made 3,000. They only struck 3,000 of each of those coins. And the interesting thing about that coin is, too, it's the only coin design that James Earl Fraser and his wife, Laura Garden Fraser, worked on together. He did the obverse, she did the reverse. But by 1939, collectors had had enough. They didn't want to add any more Oregon Trails to their collection. But when you think of all the years that they were struck, the mintages, even during those years, was very small. They were struck between 1926 and 1939, but there were only a little over 200,000 coins struck throughout all of the years.
Right, different
And to
years,
me,
different
that's
mint
not a
marks.
lot of
Yeah,
coins
yeah.
for that whole series.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, we're getting towards the end of our time here, but I did want to go into, you mentioned, I love that James Earl Fraser and Laura Garden Fraser, it's kind of like this all-star numismatic designer couple teamed up on this coin. And on one of the earlier coins, it was another pretty remarkable team. You had Morgan and Barber both working on the Colombian half dollar. A lot of these coins were designed by some legendary designers. You have Sinoc, you have De Franchisi. Who else does, who designed some of these coins, and who do we know about and who do we maybe not know about?
Well, a name that you probably don't know much about, but everybody knows the coin, is there was an Italian immigrant designer named Pompeo Capini. And what he designed, only one commemorative coin, he designed the Texas statehood centennial from 1936.
Oh, which is a beautiful coin.
And it's a beautiful coin. The obverse is the Lone Star of Texas with an American eagle in front of it, and the reverse has a kneeling winged victory, and it's got two oval portraits there, one of Sam Houston and one of Stephen Austin. And behind them are the six flags that ruled over Texas throughout Texas's history. It was the only coin that Capini ever designed. He designed a lot of statues and a lot of medals and things in Italy. And when he came to the United States, that was one of the things. They had an open competition for a design of that coin. And his design was just, it overwhelmed people. So that was, it's his memento, really, I think, to Texas. And he wound up, he came, like most immigrants did, came to New York, but for whatever reason moved directly to Texas. And what still survives in Texas are, in Dallas, some of the buildings from the 1936 centennial, and some of the statues that he designed, and some of the other designers of the day had done it. Charles Peck is another one. He designed for the Panama Pacific, said he designed the $1 gold coin, and it has a canal worker on it who's wearing a cap. And sometimes they call that the baseball player coin because he's wearing the same type of cap that the people who dug the canal wore.
But when I was a kid, I think I always wondered what that baseball player had to do with the Panama Canal, because it does. It looks just like he's a baseball player.
And then Robert Aitken. Most people don't really know him, but he designed the two $50 Pan Pac, gold coins, and just phenomenal designs. They're the only $50 coins that were issued by the U.S. Government. Excuse me. There were some assay gold pieces, but nothing like this. Nothing this ornate. And he really beautifully captured the classical design. That's something that, had Teddy Roosevelt lived, and seen these coins, he would have been really pleased and proud of them.
Right. Yeah. Aiken is one. You don't hear that name because I'm not aware of anything else that he designed. Did he design any other coins for the U.S.?
There was one or two other coins that he designed. One other thing I'll mention too is that Stone Mountain. The original person who was going to carve Stone Mountain was Gutzon Borglum, and he had a falling out with the Stone Mountain Confederate Monumental Association. So they fired him, and he destroyed his model. But the one thing he did design before that work where he was separated from actually carving the mountain, he designed the actual stone mountain commemorative $50 that has the equestrian figures of Lee and Jackson on the front. And he went on to do Mount Rushmore, as people know. But Gutzon Borglum, that was the only coin design that he had ever done, was just that Stone Mountain coin. There've been a lot of people who are artists and local artists who design some of the coins who you wouldn't know. Gertrude Lathrop designed the New Rochelle commemorative $50. And, again, her name is not one that's familiar to most people, but yet, that's a very, a beautiful design that she did. And it's very symbolic of why the coin was made. But it's one of the things, too. You're talking about the city of New Rochelle in New York celebrating its 250th anniversary. Is that an event that's really worthy of having a United States commemorative coin being prepped for?
Right. I'm not so sure about that one. Before we move on, I want to go back to Aiken for a second, just because I feel like we need to spend just another second on the $50 coins, because they're so legendary. These are mintage incredibly low, very expensive at the time. Advanced collectors, if you can afford these coins, this is kind of the pinnacle of your collection.
Right.
And like you said, this really harkens to what, when Roosevelt saw Barb, at the time said that the coinage was hideous atrociousness, he asked St. Gaudens to kind of look at the classics and look at the ancient Greek coins. And, this really epitomizes that ideal. We talk about the Renaissance of American coinage when Roosevelt had all of our coins redesigned. He tried to get St. Gaudens to do it, but St. Gaudens obviously was in failing health. But started the ball rolling, and we got all these other great coins, Victor David Brenner, Herman McNeil, Adolph Wyman, et cetera. This is kind of in that era, 1915, you still have that I guess, ideal, that feeling. And Aiken, it's clearly extremely inspired by the ancients. We know that Roosevelt carried around an Athenian owl tetradrachm, and shared this with St. Gaudens, for his inspiration. I mean, the style is very different from the coin, but certainly the subject matter is almost exact.
Well, if St. Gaudens had his way, every coin that the United States struck would have been an ultra high relief of some sort,
Right.
because that's really what the ancient Greeks and Romans weren't worried about stacking coins.
Right.
They wanted just something that was beautiful and would please their gods, and that was really what St. Gaudens had in mind, and that's why his original $20 gold piece took so long to make, simply because he was never satisfied with the relief. He always wanted it to be higher, but the mint, had to come back to him and say, no, it has to be lowered. It has to continue to be lowered. And talking about Aiken again, just for a second, the round coin, there were 483 originally struck, and the octagonal had 645.
Incredibly low mintages.
The thing about that is, too, the coins are over 2 ounces of gold.
Yeah, when you hold these, it's substantial.
It's significant.
Yeah.
And the fact that, too, that how many of those coins survived, a century plus
Right.
in pristine condition.
I mean, you
being
drop
wet,
that
they could
coin,
hold-
it gets a big dent because of the weight.
It would. It really would. So, again, it's amazing to me when you really look at it and appreciate the fact that how few of them were struck and how long ago that they were made, and they weren't given the type of care that we do today. How many of those could possibly have survived in high grade?
Right, and again, the mintages are so tiny, and I was just explaining actually to Sofer here that you have to remember like we talked about earlier, these coins are being sold in 1915 at twice their face value. So it's $100. I mean, that's a lot of money for somebody to spend on a coin at a World's Fair in 1915. So very few sold. Obviously, 400 of the one and 600 of the other, approximately. And the reason you see that octagonal one slightly higher is, I said, if you're maybe not that serious of a collector, or maybe if you are, either way, you have $100 you're going to spend on one coin. You're going to look at them and go, I think I'm going to get that weird shaped octagonal one because it's so different and not like anything else. And these coins today are, as we said, extremely rare. And to go back a little bit to, we talked about packaging earlier. I think the rarest rare thing in the entire commemorative series is probably that, correct me if I'm wrong, that double frame set for the pan pack, right?
Back in 1985 at a coin show in Baltimore, I bought a frame, and it was a double frame, meaning that it was two of each coin. So it's the same set that you have there under glass, but it had two openings for each of the coins.
And the idea was
you could show the obverse and reverse of each one. And remember then in 1985, commemoratives were very strong in price. Well, I paid $20,000 just for an empty double frame.
Right, no coins.
But it was in the original box, and it was in the original mailing box too. It had never been used. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, that's $20,000 is a lot of money to spend on something that goes with your coins and doesn't even have a coin in it.
Right.
But again, that's what the current price were. Before we go to one other thing I'd like to mention is behind me. You see, there's
I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, that's a flag from the Delaware Tercentenary. I'll get out of your way a little bit. And this was a flag that hung in the convention hall when FDR went there to meet the King of Sweden, who was in Wilmington, Delaware, to for the anniversary of the 300th anniversary of the landing of the Kalmar-Nyckel ship in Delaware. And so if you're a collector of commemorative coins and you have some memorabilia that goes with it, you might have an original holder. You may have some of the original mailing envelopes and things like that. They're all great tie-ins to add. Well, your imagination is your guide. You can go and collect things like that that are representative of the coin and were used during the celebrations. Here's another little item here. This is for the Rhode Island Tercentenary in 1936. I hope you can see that well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And it's a license plate frame. And what you do is during the parades, if you're, Ford Model T Ford was in one of those parades, you'd attach this to your license plate or to your bumper, and it would show people that it was a parade car. It's just, particularly for the World Fairs, there's things that we're finding out new things every day that have come from the 1892 Columbian Exposition. It was just millions of people went. There were so many different exhibitors from all around the world that there's really all types of memorabilia that you can collect and add that to your commemorative collection. So I just hope that people having heard this today might be a little inspired to take a look at the commemorative series and say, maybe I'll start that 11-piece, gold set, or maybe I'll try and collect the 50-piece, a commemorative type set. And the history that you learn, the people that you'll meet, who are collectors along the way, who appreciate the history and the beauty of these coins and the different styles. Is really great. It's been a great hobby and a great business for me for the last 40 years. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a great learning experience too. I know a lot more history than I did before I became a coin dealer and before I specialized in commemoratives.
Same with me. I love history now, and I'd say 90% of what I know about history is through through collecting coins. So this has been phenomenal. I've learned a lot. I've had a lot of fun. Last question is, do you have any words of wisdom about and you kind of probably already summed it up, but do you have like a summary kind of word of advice or wisdom to people collecting coins?
Well, really, I mean, if you don't have the greatest grading skills, only buy certified coins. And only buy PCGS or NGC graded coins, simply because they're the two grading services that are consistent, that have the right reputations. Talk to your dealer, let them educate you on these coins or on any coins that you have an interest in. The best advice I was given as a kid collecting, and that I've continued to give over the last 50 plus years, is buy what you like. Mm-hmm. And if you're really interested in history, this is a great series. Take a look at it, and eventually the bug may bite you, and you may find that you can't wait to get the next part of it. Or you may go, now I finished the 50 pieces, maybe I'll go for a 144 piece set, or I finished the 11 piece gold set. Now I'm going to try and get those other two pan pack coins. But really, just buy what you like. You'll really enjoy owning it for the rest of your life.
Right. And now, before we go, as you know, it's our custom here to make a donation to a charity of our guest's choice. We're going to give $1,000 to the American Cancer Society. Is there a reason why this is a charity that's close to you?
Well, it's touched everybody. My brother, who is older than me, who actually was responsible for my being in the coin business, died of cancer. And I don't know too many people who have not been touched by it at some way. So I really do appreciate you're making that donation. It's every dollar helps, and maybe someday when my grandchildren are older, there will be a cure. So again, thank you for doing that. I greatly appreciate it.
Sure. Now, it's a great cause, and it's close to me too. I've lost a couple of people, including my grandfather, who got me into collecting coins. So I appreciate you steering us towards that, and hopefully other people will watch this, will donate too. It's a great cause. So thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it. Your knowledge is just vast. It's just a fun series to collect, and there's just endless opportunities, and I just really appreciate you coming on today. So thank you so much, Mike.
Well, thanks, Jack, for inviting me. And I'll just give you one last word of advice. You don't want to play Trivial Pursuit with me. I know all these little odds and ends about a lot of our history, so that nobody in my family will play that with me, and I don't blame them. So. But again, Jack, thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun. And thanks to your audience for not falling asleep during this. I appreciate that, too.
Thanks,
and thanks
Mike.
for the cookies.
Sure, of course.
Thanks to Colleen.
I will. And thank you, everyone else, for joining me today on Coin Snacks with Jack. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel. We're streaming every week on Facebook and YouTube at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. So tune in for your weekly dose of numismatics. And don't forget about our lunch special going on today until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You're going to get a special pricing, 5% off on selected gold commemoratives. We even have a couple of sets up there, so make sure you go to rarecollectiblestv.com, take a look at our selections up there. No code necessary, just pick the coins you want and take advantage of that offer. Thank you all again so much. We will see you next week. I almost forgot the other special. I'm being reminded. Don't forget also, email us at coinguys at rarecollectiblestv.com, and you can get a free copy of our Private Advisory Coin Team 2020 Numismatic Hall of Fame selections. It's a great little picture book with photographs of some of the most rare and unusual coins that you're ever going to see. These are coins we placed with our clients last year, but it is a $10 value and free right now. All you have to do is email us your name and address to coinguys at rarecollectiblestv.com. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you next week for another exciting episode.
Thanks for watching Coin Snacks with Jack. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode of Coin Snacks. Visit us at rarecollectiblestv.com.